All right, I'm gonna show you guys how to do a leak test on this hose. So this silver braided hose here, I have hooked up to this propane heater. I'm gonna run this hose in the wall of my trailer, so I need to make sure it doesn't leak before I run it. So first what I did, take 2 wrenches, and when you're tightening on this flared nut here onto this fitting, I put 1 wrench on here and applied the opposite force and tightened from here. That's how you don't break anything, you don't twist anything up. You need 2 different wrenches, right? 2 wrenches to hold on one spot here and another wrench to hold on this spot. So while you tighten this, you're not just over tightening this into here and causing this to turn and maybe damaging something over here, or vice versa if you were tightening this onto here. Same thing here. When I was tightening this nut here onto here, I applied 1 wrench on this, 1 wrench on this, and tightened it. This might seem really basic, but some people don't understand that. So what I have here is I have a bubble solution, right? You can see it's all bubbly. You can use like Dawn soap. This dish soap is probably the best. Anything that bubbles. It's probably a little too bubbly, but I opened up the propane line. I have a propane tank in here. This is a van, but I'm building out a trailer. But I have this hooked up to my propane tank, and I have this hooked up here, and I have it's on. The propane is just being supplied to the heater. So I'm going to take this bubble solution and just spray it everywhere, just a bunch. And I'm going to look and see if there's any bubbles forming. I'm going to look all the way around this thing. And I don't see any. It's usually very apparent. Sometimes you'll see the bubbles move around. There's a lot of bubbles on here. You'll see them popping and stuff. It's not a leak. It's usually very apparent. You'll see it bubbling up and creating like bubbles out here sometimes, or you'll just see it like very aggressively bubbling. There's small little bubbles there, just bubbles escaping from the little cracks that it's in. It's not actually leaking out. And then I would perform the same thing over here. Just spray that everywhere. I'm gonna perform a 360 inspection on this. I already did it, and I know it doesn't leak. There's no bubbles forming there. Yep, but that's pretty much what you gotta do. You just gotta spray on a bubble solution, do a 360 inspection. Also just wanted to mention too about the fittings here, what needs tape and what doesn't. If you have flared fittings, like in there you can see there's an angle, and on here you can see there's an angle right here. Those 2 surfaces seal together to give a compression fitting. So that's actually where the sealing surface is. It's not on these threads. You wouldn't put any tape or pipe dope or anything like that on a compression fitting. So this is actually where the seating surface is. This is where it seals, and it seals inside of there. If you put the pipe tape or pipe thread on here, you'll actually increase the friction of these threads and these threads, and you might not be able to tighten this enough in order to get a really good seal between this seating surface and the seating surface in here. Now this thread and these threads are pipe threads, not flared threads. So this would be a flared fitting. This would be a pipe thread. And pipe threads, the way that pipe threads seal like a garden hose, is the threads actually are slightly offset, and so as you tighten them, eventually after so many threads in, these threads will mesh with the thread that you're turning on, and that'll be kind of where the seal is. So on a garden hose, you'll have a gasket down here where it'll crush it, and that's where your seal is. But if you don't have a gasket that goes inside, you will put pipe dope or pipe threads, or pipe dope or tape, like Teflon tape or whatever type of tape you're using, on these threads in order to maintain the seal in here. But yeah, so yeah, flare fittings, you do not use Teflon or any type of pipe dope. On pipe threads, you will use some type of Teflon or pipe dope, or you will use a gasket. Same thing here, there'll be a gasket that either goes here, or you would use a Teflon or pipe dope. Yeah. Also, when you're putting these fittings on, a lot of times when you first start, this thing will move around. If you just gently tug on it and tighten it down. Doing this with one hand, normally you would do this with two, but you can feel that it's sitting in there nicely. It's straight. It's not like cocked. This seat isn't cocked in there. You aren't like, if you tighten this down with a wrench really tight and this is cocked in here, you're going to damage those seating surfaces that we talked about, and that will make this no-go. It'll break the fitting and it'll leak permanently. But you make sure it's straight. You can gently pull this out as you tighten this, or you can push this in and seat it into the seat while you tighten the nut. However you feel comfortable doing it, but either way is an easy way of setting that up. Now I'm going to give you guys a fail test here, just so that we know what it looks like. So I'm going to spray on this soap solution, and right away we can just see bubbles forming here. And that's usually what a fail will look like, a lot of bubbles. It's pretty obvious normally. I mean, you may have less than that, but it becomes very obvious once you have a leak and you're doing a soap bubble test on an air system. Air or gas. Cool. So you guys know what to look for.